Hi, Stephanie. Stephanie Evans, right?
Yes, that's me.
Great. Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the Trips and Global on Wheels podcast. I saw your emails. I'm like, oh no, we won't be connecting.
I'm glad that we figured it out.
Yeah, then we figured it out. Then I saw you online. I was like, oh, good. Because I was just in the middle of drafting an email to you, and I was like, no, 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 it's right now. But I'm glad we got it worked out. So I'm gonna read a brief bio that you sent over. I shortened it, and I'm gonna read that for our listeners who don't have much of a background on you, and then we'll continue with the regular programming. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
Okay, awesome. So, Stephanie Evans, a dedicated advocate for mental health and disability rights from St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Is that right?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
With a social work degree, she's committed to supporting individuals through advocacy and plans to open a private practice. Stephanie serves as a chairperson for NEADS. Is that how you say that acronym?
Needs.
NEADS. Okay. So driving impactful change for students with disabilities. She also contributes to the Wavemakers Advisory Board and the Dawn Canada Hummingbird Network. An avid outdoor enthusiast, she finds healing in nature through hiking and sports. Passionate about creating equitable spaces, Stephanie's volunteer work reflects her unwavering dedication to uplift and empower others. Welcome again, Stephanie. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you for having me. When I saw the email, I was like, I had to read it like 3 times. I was like, is this real? Like, I can't wait for this. This is awesome.
The honor is all mine. So let's kick
Oh,
off with some of your personal experience. I know you have deeply, your experiences have deeply influenced your advocacy work. And how do you balance sharing your story to inspire others while maintaining personal boundaries?
oh, that's a good question. So I so what I do is like I communicate um as much as I can, and I support like individuals. Um, yeah. But like the thing is, like by sharing my story, I can help other people. I know that sometimes it just depends on when it's the right time to tell the story. Because like you said, boundaries are important, and for me, I still have to work on that because I find it's hard for me to say no. But I know that it's worth it. Um, and if I can make one person's day, then it it's worth it, like I said.
That's awesome. Thanks, Stephanie. And so, with the next question is, as the chairperson for NEADS, how do you balance advocating for systemic change with supporting individuals facing immediate accessibility barriers?
Oh wow. So what I do is like I make sure like I have great time management, and then I have a great team that supports me as well because I can't do this advocacy by myself. It's really hard to do it with one person. So having a great team and being able to listen to a student's stories and like what they want instead of like assuming what they need. So
Yeah, that's great. I know. They say raising a child takes a village, so never mind like trying to move a whole movement forward, right? Disability
yes.
justice, disability rights. So with the next question, from your perspective, is disability rights activism more effective when led by those with lived experience, or does it require broader allyship to create more meaningful, lasting change?
Hmm. I think it's a bit of both. I think that personal stories do help, and like so they people would know have a like can relate more, but it is also to know that you have allies that are in that spaces that can be your voice when you're not in the room and be able to support you wherever your journey is.
Yeah. I agree with you. I think the personal stories are important, and then at the same time, we need people on the inside at the legal level to figure out how to work out the details of making those long-lasting change where it'll be around for decades and hundreds, maybe even thousands of years to come. We'll see. How can
Okay.
universities balance the need for academic rigor with the imperative of accessibility and inclusivity?
Okay, wow. You're good with the questions. Wow. So I think the most important thing is to be able to talk to the students, be able to build that relationship, being able to be adaptable, because every student has different needs. So being able to be having an open mind, and yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Um, in terms of next, we're going to cover uh, your work and expertise a bit more. I know you're a part of a advisory board of various advisory boards. So what strategies have you found most effective in influencing policy change in this area, or at least even making just incremental progress, right? I think in this movement and in a lot of social movements, actually, it's all about the incremental progress. It's not going to be this way today, and then tomorrow it's going to be utopia, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. So what I do is like I know that like I'm on a lot of boards like you said, but like I try not to get overwhelmed with it. I take it one day at a time. And so when I'm on those boards, I make sure that I have the space to like use like have my voice heard, because growing up, like my voice was silenced, and I was like, that's not going to happen again. Like I don't want other people with disabilities have to go through what I went through. So being at that table, hearing people's stories, and I don't mind speaking up on things that I think there needs to be changes, because if even if I'm the only one that speaks up, at least I made some kind of impact.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That it's, I think people really underestimate the impact of one ripple, right? One person, and that that and how much that one ripple expands out.
Mm-hmm.
When one person is courageous and authentic, it inspires, the next person that's close in proximity to stretch a little further. And then that person, impacts the person that stands closest to them or sits closest to them to be a little less afraid of being themselves.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's
So
right.
thank you for sharing and thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I know a lot of these questions are kind of larger picture questions.
Hmm.
And I could tell you're just so eager and so
Yeah, yeah,
open
I
to
love it.
tackling them.
Yes, yes. I love all questions. Like I'm an open book for sure.
That's awesome. So let's keep that book open and and let's explore how do you navigate the tension between pushing for radical systemic reform and working within existing structures. I think a lot of times, as especially as um, people in the modern world, younger generations are wanting to make changes really fast, but unfortunately, we are born into these structures and systems and institutions where things work a lot slower. Um,
Hmm.
so how do you balance that?
Yeah. So, um, when I when I was born, um, the so the world wasn't built with me in mind. Um, so that was a hard thing to go through, growing up, and I knew that I wanted to do some changes. Um,
How
but
did you know it wasn't built with you in mind? What did you experience?
so I experienced a lot of so not a lot of locations were accessible. Um, I also faced a lot of bullying with uh, teachers, with medical, with students, with friends. So having a misunderstanding about a disability was a hard thing for me. So, so I knew that if I was going to make some changes that, like I said before in the other I was talking about before, that I didn't want other people to go through what I went through. I knew um, that I had to figure out how to make it more accessible. Like you said, it doesn't happen like the next day. Like it takes time. So being having that self-care as well is important because this type of work is exhausting. But like I said, it's worth it.
So we're
Okay.
going to actually keep expanding on that response
Okay.
with the next question. And so, how has your own lived experience influenced the way you practice and advocate for mental health and disability rights?
Well, okay. Um, so it's very personal for me. Because I know that sometimes people just want to have someone listen to them, listen to their stories, try to understand where they're coming from. Meeting the people where they're at is important. My personal experience is um so I've gone through a lot in my life. So I don't want people to feel like isolated or like
If,
they
if,
don't have so.
if you feel comfortable sharing, what comes to mind when you say you've gone through a lot in life, just to help people relate and resonate?
Oh, that's perfect. So when I was growing up, I faced a lot of bullying within the medical system, like the way I treated during surgeries, because I've had 3 surgeries. Um, I was bullied in school a lot, physically and mentally. I was called every name in the book, and then from students. I was not invited to like social events. Teachers would say, "Oh, you won't get to university. You won't do anything with your life." And now I have a degree, so that I'm proving people wrong for sure. Um, and yeah, I face barriers every day, but like I try to be as positive as I can, and yeah.
Yeah, and so how has all those experiences influenced how you advocate for mental health and disability rights?
So I just like make sure that people feel seen, heard, and supported. I think that's important. I don't have all the answers. The person has that's dealing with what they're dealing with, they have the answers. I'm just there to be a support. And I think that's the first thing that's important, just trying to build that relationship, that trusting relationship. And yeah.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And you're definitely in the helping field with your social work background, right?
Yes.
And that often requires a lot of emotional labor, meaning it can be very emotionally taxing. So how do
Mm-hmm.
you protect your own mental health whilst trying to support others and help as many as you can?
Oh, so I love to volunteer. I'm actually being nominated for a Volunteer of the Year award in my city, so that's
Wow,
exciting.
that is
Yeah,
exciting.
I just found out like last week, so I'm excited about that. I also love the outdoors. I think being outside, seeing the sun really helps with my mental health, and also connecting with my friends and my family. Like if I'm going through a hard time, I can just reach out to them and they always have my back. So having some people around in your corner is important for sure.
Yeah, I know that social, even ironically, even though we have our phones, we have all these social media platforms. Like it's so easy to contact somebody than ever before. At the same time, I feel like a lot of people are very isolated and lonely,
Hmm.
and and we have a mental health crisis going on right now.
Oh, yes.
So don't underestimate um that social component, right?
Hmm.
Friendships, relationships in general.
Yes.
Yeah. So do you think empathy can ever become a burden for social workers? And if so, how do you manage that line?
Wow. I think I think it's great to always be genuine and have empathy because I feel like the world now is like lacking in empathy. So I want, so I do think that social workers can get burnt out. But I feel like if they had the proper support and like less caseloads and better mental health days for themselves, that they would be able to have like empathy. And I don't think empathy is a negative thing. I think it's a positive thing that needs to happen more.
Yeah. So is there a particular story or experience from your volunteer work that shaped what we've been talking about? Empathy, compassion. Yeah, that's shaped you in an impactful, profound way. Um, Go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. So my last social work placement, I was working at a mental health warm line. So I also did lead groups in person and online as well. I was very involved in it. But I remember my first day, it was my first time answering the phone, and I have to be ready for every situation. Like I could have a social call or a crisis call, so I didn't know what I was going into. So when I picked up the phone, this person was like, "I'm having a bad day. I don't know if I want to live anymore." And I was like, "Okay, here we go." Um so like I just sat with him in his pain. I like I listened to what he wanted to say and what he wanted. Like I just sat with the pain. Um and I just like talked him through his emotions. And by the end of it we were like laughing, and like he said, "You know what? Like you end up picking up the phone and like talking to me and going through this has made my day. Like you saved my life. Like just you being kind and willing to listen, that goes a long way." So yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. And I don't know where I read this, but I think I read it somewhere, heard it somewhere where we all need each other more than we think.
Oh
And
yeah.
it doesn't take anything astronomical. Like you don't need to have a PhD, you don't need to have gone to the moon. Just be
Nope.
kind, just be
Yes.
present, listen,
Kindness always wins.
give people love in your own small way. It's nothing extraordinary. You don't need to have $1 million or a
No.
$1,000 even.
Nope. Definitely not.
Yeah, just showing up with your simple presence and love sometimes, a lot of times, is enough.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
And your example really gave um your example, the example that you just gave was a good demonstration of that. So the next few questions are going to be a bit more philosophical and reflective, and
Okay.
covering more complex societal issues.
Okay.
Um, so, do you think true inclusion is achievable, or is it always destined to be an ideal society? Um, Basically, it's always going to be an ideal and hypothetical, but never fully attainable.
Um, so I think that it has gotten better um from the past. but I feel like there still needs to be a lot of work. Um, it'd be great to have it be like not ideal. Um, like, but I do think that it's important. Um, but honestly, in my opinion, I ho want to hope for a better future, but I feel like the times right now, the way the world is, I feel like we're going 10 steps back instead of 10 steps forward. So, there's
Why?
still so like there's things that are being um excluded, like the benefits for people with disabilities and like um funding that people with disabilities need, or like certain things are not being accommodated for, like certain buildings and educational accommodations and stuff like that. So I do hope for it to get better. Um, but right as of right now, I it still needs a lot of work.
Yeah. So in your view, how does the current healthcare system perpetuate ableism, and what reforms are necessary to create a truly inclusive health services?
Wow. So the way that the health system is now, still needs a lot of work. Um, there's still some biases about people's mental health and people with disabilities as well. Like the stigma between like what is mental health, and when people say if they have a disability, like the doctors won't believe their condition or anything like that, or they just assume that the patient needs a certain thing, but in reality, they just need the doctor to listen to them and like want to try to help. But I feel like the doctors now are so overwhelmed and so overworked that they don't have the time to do all that stuff. But I feel like if they have more doctors, if they were able to like maybe commit to have a committee or something and be able to communicate more about different issues, then it could work.
Thank you. And I think you make a great point about how it's also not as complicated as people think, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Start making those changes. So going back to that conversation about building an inclusive society, what philosophical or ethical principles do you think guide your vision for a more inclusive society?
Um, I just feel like there needs to be more training, inclusive training, as in different like areas like employment, uh, in healthcare, in education. Um, I also think that being like you said, like having that empathy goes a long way. Being able to be open-minded and being adaptable is important. So yeah.
And if you could influence one national policy regarding disability rights or mental health, what would it be and why?
Okay, this is a tough question. Okay. Wow. Okay, let me just think for a sec for this one. Um, I know that there's like a like the 504, I think, is in America. Like I think that's important to keep. I like Judy, like she was an amazing person, and like oh, it's getting me emotional because she passed away like a couple years ago, and so she did a lot of work for like and advocated for that. And I want that policy to still exist. I don't want it to go away. So like I just hope that
Why is
um
it so meaningful and impactful for you? I could tell you're getting, emotional talking about this.
yeah, so I watched Trip Camp on Netflix, and they did a story on the 504 and Judy's advocacism, and so what they did was amazing. Like they stayed into the government room until like he was willing to listen to them. Like they did a hunger strike. And they climbed up the stairs, and like there was people that couldn't even walk, but they just crawled up the stairs, and I can tell how painful that was because I've done something similar like that. And for them to want to be that voice for people with disabilities that don't have a voice, it was very impactful. That was the start of what I wanted to do as an advocate. But yeah, it's very important to keep that because yeah, because because it's very important that people with disabilities still have voices, and that they're not silenced, and that they get all the benefits that they do need because having a disability is not easy.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with you. So let's build on the aspect that you just said about silencing voices, right? How do you think
Mm.
the voices of people with disabilities are silenced today?
They're silenced because they're not being brought into like the table. Uh, um, they're People are just having biases of what they think they need and not what they actually need. And people are just not listening, and um yeah,
Can
it
you
just
give an example of what people think, the example of providing what they think people with disabilities need rather than what they actually need?
yeah, so for example, like um there I had a client, and they were like, I need this mobility aid, and um and then the person that was supposed to give the mobility aid was like, no, you need this aid. And like, but that's not what the person wanted. They wanted something different. And so it was just very frustrating, and yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. So if you could envision an ideal society in terms of disability inclusion and mental health support, what core values and structures would it embody?
Hmm. Um, being adaptable, having an open mind, having a great support system and team behind you, um, being able to just listen um to whatever organization or person needs, and um yeah, keeping an open mind.
Okay, so we have the last couple questions.
Yeah.
Um, what message or piece of advice would you offer to aspiring advocates, students, or individuals navigating disability and mental health challenges?
You with the questions.
I am the interviewer.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say take it one day at a time, because it's not something that's going to happen in a day. Um, be able to be uncomfortable with the uncomfortable. There's going to be times when you feel exhausted and that your work is not important, but it is. There's going to be people that are going to tell you no. There's going to be people that are going to say, "Oh, you can't do this," but you can. Um, and just try to believe in yourself and be you. Like that just the world needs. Just be you and see where it goes. And you're gonna make a difference regardless of what you do. Yeah, and it's worth it. It's not easy, but it's worth it.
Well said, very well said. And then last question, what is one hope or goal you hold for the next generation of disability advocates?
Mm, yeah. So, uh,
And if
I
there's more
just
than one that comes to mind, that's totally fine.
okay. So I feel like just go for it. Like I want them to not have that fear. I know that sometimes fear can be a barrier. Um, but there will be people that will listen and people that will be there to support you and yeah, just not have that fear and just go with whatever you want to do, whatever kind of area you want to be an advocate in. Just know that you'll have an ally, you'll have support, and you're not alone.
Yeah, well said. Isn't there a famous quote that says the only thing to fear is fear itself? And
Yes.
it is hard to really understand and live through that quote though. Really feel
Mm,
the fear and do it anyway, right?
yes.
So we do have a few more minutes, and I wanted to leave it open to you if there was anything else that you wanted to talk about that we didn't necessarily cover. I know you wanted to have this release on Cerebral Palsy Day,
Yes.
and do you want to share why you would like to have this episode specifically dedicated to that day?
Yeah. So CP day is very important to me because I have CP. And I feel like there needs to be more awareness on it. Um, and so I feel like um it's very important. Thank you for letting me talk about this. This is great. But um having a disability, like I said, is not easy. And to be able to speak on this and having people listen to this and know that you're not alone and there is supports out there. Um, and yeah, like growing up with CP, not everyone with CP has the same symptoms or anything like that. So everyone, yeah,
Yeah, you. So everyone with CP, there's slight variations with each person,
yes,
and maybe sometimes not so slight, right?
yeah,
And the challenges will vary as well. And
hmm,
then, so thank you so much for sharing that. And I know you're located in Canada, is that right?
yep, that's right.
Where in Canada are you?
So Newfoundland and Labrador. So it's like I'm like an island. So we're like surrounded by water.
Nice. How is that? How's living on an island?
Great. It's just a lot of snow in the winter. We can get up to 90 centimeters of snow.
Oh my gosh, that is a lot of snow.
Yes.
And I can imagine that it wouldn't be easy to navigate around all that snow.
No, especially when you have a disability, you gotta think 10 steps ahead. Like there's could be a blizzard or like a snowbank or like ice that you have to worry about as well.
Wow, wow. I've never been, so I gotta visit that sometime. Probably not when you have that much snow, though.
Nope.
Yeah. It's been so fun talking to you, Stephanie, and I love the energy that you brought to this interview too. I could tell, like from the moment you came on, it was just like really great energy, and
Oh,
it got me even more excited to talk to you.
I appreciate that, and I'm so glad I got to meet you as well. It's been a pleasure, honestly.
More pleasure, more of a honor and pleasure for me. And then lastly, before we close, I want to know, for those people who are interested and are going to be very gripped by your story and your insights, where can they follow you?
So you can follow me on LinkedIn. My name is Stephanie Evans. You can also add me on Instagram. So it's Stephanie G uh, underscore Evans 17 as well. Or you
Okay,
can email me at stephanieevans17 at live.com.
awesome. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you. Have a great day, everyone.